Hey, what's going on, crypto people? It is the Crypto Siege with another day in the life and the crazy life that is the digital asset space. What's going on, guys? Good evening or good afternoon or good morning to you. Interesting times going on right now, and we all know that geopolitical situations require us to be paying attention. And thank God for people like DNI, the digital nomad investor, who allow us to keep our XRP radar antennas up so that we can be 2 and 3 steps ahead. And I think it's really, really important to pay attention to things like this, especially what's going on with the beer cold and what's the ultimate plan, right? I was talking with Deep Mind early today. We were texting back and forth. And I was like, yeah, so we all know what's going on here, the bigger plan, right? We all know the bigger plan, right? We all know that. Those of us in the digital asset space, especially in the XRP community, the question ultimately we have to come up is what we're trying to figure out is what is their answer? What's the ultimate answer? And I believe it's what answer will win out. I think they have a couple or 3 answers, but the question is what answer will win out? And we are all betting on XRP as the answer. So President Trump signs the beer cold relief plan to expand paid leave. So some key points from this article, shout out to CNBC.com, are President Donald Trump on Wednesday signed a $100 billion beer cold aid package into law, $100 billion, which includes provisions for emergency paid leave for workers as well as free testing. The Senate passed legislation to expand paid leave and unemployment insurance in response to the beer cold pandemic. Congress is already working on a massive stimulus package to pass to avoid economic calamity from the outbreak. It just really feels like, to me, they're pouring a lot of money and they're pulling the money out of thin air. And to me, it's just really about, saying that they because of this, they've had to exhaust all their options that is in reference to that are correlated with the US dollar and that this particular system. They've exhausted all their options. They put everything in to fight this, and they have to come up with a new financial system. Ultimately, that's where I feel this is going. So Senate has enough votes to pass the beer cold bill. President Trump on Wednesday signed a $100 bill, $100 billion beer cold package into law, which includes provisions for emergency paid leave for workers as well as free testing. The Senate passed the bill earlier today to expand paid leave and unemployment benefits in response to the beer cold pandemic, part of a staggering response expected in the coming weeks to avoid economic calamity. The chamber approved a bipartisan plan in a 90-8 vote. 2 senators, Republican Cory Gardner of Colorado and Rick Scott of Florida, did not vote while in self-quarantine after exposure to people who tested positive for the beer cold. So since GOP lawmakers opposed the bill, arguing could harm small businesses, some GOP lawmakers did, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said Wednesday that he would vote for the plan despite what he called real shortcomings. So, and I think this is really important to know, right? So they're thinking and they're letting it get out to the masses that they were thinking about the possible harm of these passing of these stimulus bills. Some GOP lawmakers opposed the bill, arguing it could harm small businesses, right? So they put that bug out there. They put that word out there to get everyone start to thinking and start preparing for what inevitably is going to happen. So Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said Wednesday that he would vote for the plan despite what he called real shortcomings. With the urgent need to take action, I do not believe we should let perfection be the enemy of something that will help even a subset of workers, he said. On Tuesday, McConnell advised GOP senators to gag and vote for it anyway, saying Congress needed to rise above our normal partisanship. So, guys, interesting. So the Senate voted on, that's interesting. There is a third relief on the way. The Senate voted on legislation later than it originally hoped because Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky forced a vote on an amendment that ultimately failed. It voted on 3 amendments, all of which failed. The House bill that the Senate considered provides enhanced unemployment insurance, ensures that businesses that have fewer than 500 workers, 500 employees, offer 2 weeks of paid sick leave to their workers, and includes increased funding for food assistance programs and guarantees free testing for the beer cold. The bill faced opposition from Republican lawmakers in the House, who insisted on technical corrections to the bill. Representative Louis Gohmert of Texas was the prime Republican who held the bill up earlier this week. The revised legislation made changes that could limit the number of people who could get up to 12 weeks of paid family and medical leave. Dozens of other Republican lawmakers voted against the original bill, which had President Donald Trump's backing and received overwhelming support from House Democrats. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi crafted it with Trump's Treasury Secretary, Steven Mnuchin. Congress and the White House aim to pass another, more sprawling stimulus package to try to stop economic disaster. Again, guys, throwing everything in the kitchen sink at this. Exhausted every means possible. This will be the reason, in my opinion, when the disaster hits financially and economically, credit and all the debts, they're going to say because they exhausted all their resource trying to fight the beer cold, right? They had to move to another system. You can see it. It's right there, right in front of us, guys. Congress and the White House aim to pass another, more sprawling stimulus package to try to stop economic disaster. Republican Democrats have differing views on what a plan should contain. The Trump administration seeks an $850 billion to $1 trillion stimulus measure, which could include direct payments to Americans, tax cuts, or relief to suffering industries. McConnell said Wednesday that he would not adjourn the Senate until we pass a far bolder package, which must include significant relief for small businesses all across our country. In the statement chairing the Senate's approval of the House-passed plan, Pelosi said Congress is already hard at work on the third bill, which will take bold, historic action on behalf of America's workers and families. Oh, man. Senators even had to take precaution while voting Wednesday. McConnell told senators to avoid congregating here in the well of the Senate floor, encouraging them to vote and depart the chamber. Senators often stand and chat on the floor during votes. During the series of votes on the bill and amendments to it, many lawmakers simply walked into the chamber, gave a thumbs up or thumbs down signal, and walked out of the room. Even so, some senators huddled in groups to talk for short periods of time. The beer cold, which is believed to have originated in Wuhan, China, has spread to dozens of countries globally, with more than 212,000 cases worldwide, and at least 8,727 deaths so far, according to data from Johns Hopkins University. So, guys, there it is. There again for us, right? Because we have XRP rate, our antennas up. There's a bigger plan to all of this, right? There's a bigger plan to all of this, and this is just a thing, right? This is just the smoke screen, if you will. Doesn't mean that the beer cold is not a real deal. It is a real deal. It absolutely is a real deal, and people are scared and people are nervous without question. I'm not saying that, but there's something else going on behind this. There's something else going on behind it, in my opinion. Interesting stuff there. So, in alignment with what the U.S. is doing and looking to do, look what's going on here. The ECB announces a $750 billion, and that's euros, right? Pandemic Emergency Purchase Program, PEPP. The governing council decided the following: to launch a new temporary asset purchase program of private and public sector securities to counter the serious risks to the monetary policy transmission mechanism and the outlook for the euro area posed by the outbreak and escalating diffusion of the beer cold. This new pandemic emergency purchase program will have an overall envelope of 750 billion euro. Purchases will be conducted until the end of 2020 and will include all the asset categories eligible under the existing asset purchase program. For the purchases of public sector securities, the benchmark allocation across jurisdictions will continue to be the capital key of the national central banks. At the same time, purchases under the new PEPP will be conducted in a flexible manner. This allows for fluctuations in the distribution of purchase flows over time across asset classes and among jurisdictions. Guys, it's happening. It is 100% happening. A waiver of the eligibility requirements for securities issued by the Greek government will be granted for purchases under PEPP. The Governing Council will terminate net assets. Okay, I don't need to read that. Let me read the last part. So the Governing Council of the ECB is committed to playing its role in supporting all citizens of the Euro area through this extremely challenging time. To that end, the ECB will ensure that all sectors of the economy can benefit from supportive financing conditions that enable them to absorb this shock. This applies equally to families, firms, banks, and governments. The Governing Council will do everything necessary within its mandate. The Governing Council is fully prepared to increase the size of its asset purchase program and adjust their composition by as much as necessary and for as long as needed. It will explore all options and all contingencies to support the economy through this shock. To the extent that some self-imposed limits might hamper action that the ECB is required to take in order to fulfill its mandate, the Governing Council will consider revising them to the extent necessary to make its actions proportionate to the risks that we face. The ECB will not tolerate any risk to the smooth transmission of its monetary policy in all jurisdictions of the Euro area. So they basically saying, if we have to go up, we're going to go up. If we have to extend it longer, we're going to extend it longer. We're going to do whatever it takes. Again, guys, for me, this is about being able to say that they did everything possible, right, to deal with this. And because they did that, and even though they do everything here, the bottom line is ultimately the debt is there. It's real. Also, in this credit, the credit crisis that's going to go on amongst banks and small businesses is real, and it's going to happen. It's going to continue. It's not going to matter. I was listening to Jim Rickers earlier today. The recession is inevitable. It's going to happen. It's just the degree of. It's just what is the degree of this recession? Is it going to turn into a depression? We don't know. But they want to be able to say that they did everything possible, right? And, perhaps because of their efforts to deal with the beer cold, the market tanked as well in response to it. And we've done everything we can. We have to do something different, right? We have to do something different, guys. So there it is, guys. That's your XRP Ripple Daily News in 0 to 10 minutes. I hope you appreciate it. I'm going to end this video like I do all of my videos, and remind you of this. By the way, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. And again, thank you so much for all your comments on the videos. I definitely appreciate them, and I always take the time to respond to those videos as well. So guys, listen, never ever forget this. Old money doesn't want you to win. They don't want us to win. They would rather us remain a cog in their perpetual wheel of trading our time for dollars. They don't want us to play in the same playground that they play in, but we allow our money to work for us. This is our chance to win, guys. The digital asset space is our chance to win. We are in the midst of the greatest transfer of wealth in the history of man. Are you participating, or are you standing on the sidelines? Here's what I do know, that the battle for you has already been fought, and the victory is yours. Go get it. I'll talk to you soon, guys. See ya. Bye.